right, I'd like to call the Monessen City Council work session meeting on April 5th, 2021 to order. Roll call, please.
Councilor McGregor.
Here.
Councilor Wojciechowski.
Here.
Councilman Coles.
Here.
Councilwoman Thomas.
Here.
Mayor Sherrill.
Here. Please rise for the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to open the floor to a public comment on agenda items only.
Just a quick question. What is Amendment 1 to the WEC agreement for the sewer project for the UFDA?
What number is that?
Item C. And I suppose
There's,
you'll probably read.
we received this on, this is for C, right? This is, yeah. We received it on March 30th. I'll just read the cover letter and the summary. Dear Mr. Nadzetsky, he's with WEC, the executed copy of Amendment 1 to the Agreement for Engineering Services buy-in between the City of Monessen and WEC is approved. This amendment incorporates the 2021 professional fee schedule into the agreement. A digitally signed copy of the amendment is attached for your use and distribution to the city. Should you have any questions, please do not hesitate to contact Mr. John Brady. Sincerely, Judith Patino, State Engineer, USDA Rural Development. So this is from the USDA approving one of the last pieces of the USDA. So it's a fee schedule. Am I missing anything on that? Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they have the prices on the back.
So it's it has the hourly rate for 2021, effective January 1st, 2021, and this comes from USDA.
Oh, it was related to that, but I would like to talk for a moment about that.
So say that again. Sorry.
I'm sorry. I've been vaccinated and all that kind of thing, but I would like to mention a couple of things about the sewer project. I can either do that now or at the end.
I can't
It's somewhat
hear you
related.
or see you. Could you stand up over here?
Oh, the poll.
It's that pole there. Thank you.
Yeah, if you want to talk about that now, that's fine.
First off, I did a little bit of research, as everybody's aware, on getting a right-to-know request on some of the paperwork with the sewer project. And it's not that I have anything against what you guys are doing or anything else. I truly appreciate the work you're doing, so don't take this wrong whatsoever. But there were several questions that came up as a result of reading all this that I had questions about. It starts with the resident project representative. Are you familiar with that particular position within the sewer project? The project representative is defined in the terms as an authorized representative of the engineer assigned to the assistant engineer at the site during the construction phase. As used here in the term resident project representative, or RPR, includes the assistant or field staff to the resident project representative. The duties and responsibilities and so forth are described in Exhibit D, and I have a copy of Exhibit D as well. Does anybody know who that person is going to be?
I would assume that it's the city engineer. That would be my assumption.
The only
I
reason
don't
why,
remember off the top of my head.
well, there is project engineer defined and project principal, which I would assume would be the city engineer and so forth with WEC. Mm-hmm. The only reason why that's particularly interesting to me is that particular position earns $1.673 million during the course of this project, which is a lot of money. And if you look at the duties that they provide, it's really not anything that anybody couldn't do within the city. They are just a project representative. I would think that that would be a concern, that somebody ought to figure out who that's going to be, because that's quite a windfall for a 3-year project for somebody walking home with $1.7 million. I don't know the answer to that question. I don't know that it's improper or anything else. It's just that that is a big number for somebody to make over the course of 3 years. The other thing that I saw was that the USDA is really requiring cities to basically obtain interim financing for anything over $500,000. And I know that the city has been going out for interim financing through numerous banks trying to do that. And to the best of I can tell is the city is basically asking for, and this is in conjunction with WEC, asking for USDA to give consideration to the fact that we're not able to get interim loan and just to release the funds through, close out the funding agreement. Mm-hmm. In the process of looking at that, I found a balance sheet that was provided to Todd Coley. I assume that's one of the bank people?
No, he's with the USDA.
That's interesting. The balance sheet concerns me a little bit. And insofar as I've been in business a long time, and I learned a long time ago that assets are positive numbers. A negative number in the asset would be a liability. But you have negative numbers in your asset column, and you have negative numbers in your liabilities, which would be an asset. So all I'm really saying is, state law basically says that we should have an audit done and presented to City Council the March of the following year, past the year that's being audited. And we haven't seen an audit for 2020 or 2019 yet. So we're behind.
If I may, I'm glad you brought that up about the audit. As you know, maybe if you recall from a few council meetings ago, when we hired the new auditor, McClure & Wolf, they gave a date as to when the audit would be complete, which was April 30th, 2021, for the 2019 audit for BCD. And unfortunately, our previous auditing firm, Cipher & Cipher, will not give over the information to McClure & Wolf to complete the audit.
Has anybody had it?
The last person that I'm aware of that spoke to Cipher & Cipher is Councilman Orzechowski, and that would have been several months ago.
Didn't we actually give them information in March?
Yes.
And they never came in, and they never got back to us about it.
And John has all of those copies.
We gave them the information for the audit. They requested it. They did not come in and do the audit.
Well, I understand, and I'm not trying to...
I don't understand it.
Well,
I don't understand why
some
they're
people
not
don't do what they're supposed to do.
I don't understand why they're not giving the information.
Why won't they give that information to the current auditor?
So that the audit could be complete.
So we could get that audit. That audit should have been done. And it should have been done. And it's not.
Well,
Why aren't they giving the information? Why are they holding up?
who's been calling them? I would be calling them every day asking for that information.
They don't return anything.
And when was the last time they were called?
I know the auditor's been reaching out to them. I don't know if you've reached out to
We've
them.
been reaching out to them on an ongoing basis.
I believe I've reached out as recently as last week.
No, they're just totally unresponsive?
I haven't gotten any response tonight.
That is just sad.
Mhm.
That's sad. The bottom line is that we need to really, if you got new auditors on board, we need to get them going as fast as they can. They need to pick up from wherever they need to pick up from.
Well, they need
But
to get the intros
it's way
from the former
overdue.
auditor.
It's quite honestly overdue, and it would fix problems with the chart of accounts.
I thought we had a contract. This, according to Councilman Orzechowski, we had a contract that they didn't honor, and that's their right, I guess. But if they weren't coming in, they should have told us. That way we could have taken action and started this back in March. But it is, we give them the information, we hear nothing from them. And there was a lot going on.
I understand that.
So we were trying to get things squared away from the mess the city was in.
And I think some of us assumed that, they were not meeting because of the
We had sent
pandemic or
them the
whatever.
information, and there was no response. I'm not sure why, but it seems to be, to me, it's awfully strange.
It
It's
is
almost
strange, and
it's
it's
almost
very unprofessional
deliberate.
more than anything else.
Well, why would you do that to a municipality?
I don't know, but quite honestly, why would a municipality settle for such service? If they're not
They're
doing
Well,
it,
that's why we got rid of
That's
them.
why we got rid of them and got someone else.
you should have done that last year.
Maybe we
March
should
of
have, but
March of
we did that.
2020, they did not present a audit. they were delinquent at that point. We should have been calling somebody for over a year now, every day,
No,
saying
we're
we gotta
trying-
have an audit.
We're trying to. And it's just, we can't get the information from them. And the record
Well, if you
keeping,
don't even
let
have
me
the
finish,
information-
let me finish. You asked the question, I'm
Okay.
gonna finish. And then with the way the system was down here, there was no system. To find this information, some of it doesn't exist here. Why? The
The audit
previous
was made-
administration did not do their due diligence and keep and maintain the records like they should be. We've gone through the records back here, and we can't find anything. Why? Where did it go? How did it leave here? So now we have to go to the auditors who are unresponsive to get this information from them. And I'll be honest with you, I'm very suspicious of them and the reasons why. I have no proof of anything. I'm not accusing them of anything. It does not make any sense.
Well, my
As
only,
being professionals, they should have given that, forwarded that information to the current auditors, and they did not. Why?
I know they presented the audit for 2018. And from that starting point, any valid auditor should have been able to produce an audit for 2019.
That would have been Cipher and Cipher, and they didn't do their job.
So what I'm saying is, we should have jumped up and down March of last year saying, you guys are delinquent, what is the problem, and get it fixed then.
Well, I think we all assumed, and unfortunately so, that, you know, when everything shut down in March, we assumed they weren't, you know, coming to municipalities or whatever the case may be, and we assumed, oh, they'll follow up when things open up, and we never heard anything. And that's why we got rid of them. But this has been going on for 3-4 months now. I think we hired them at the end of December, and they're still not answering. So I don't know what the problem is. It is very suspicious to me, though.
I think both of them are suspicious at this point. We still don't have an audit, and we're 2 years late.
The company that we have now can't get the information.
They have 2018 information.
That's not
That
enough.
doesn't, what
They
about all the
need 2019.
expenses for 2019?
Well,
They're just supposed to make them up? They have to come in and actually go through all the records? And they're gonna do it, they came in and they did that.
And we've given them every.
But there's other
everything we could.
information that Cipher and Cipher has that's not here. Why isn't it here? Who was the city administrator at that point? Who was overseeing things here that made this mess? And it's a mess. It's uncalled for that the city has to suffer because of this. There's a situation, and thank God that Mr. Harhide talked to DCED, and he got an extension for us, because this is not the current administration's fault. This goes back to the previous administration and the record keeping, or lack of record keeping, that's been an ongoing problem here for the last 6 years. The problem down here is terrible. People outside here don't realize the mess that the records are back here. There's records back there that were just thrown into garbage cans, and would have to be sorted through and straightened out. We actually should ask for volunteers to come in and help straighten this mess out. There's not enough. We don't have enough people working to get this thing straightened out, because you just can't go. You have to continue operating the city. We need people that can come in and can go through this mess and sort it all out, because there's records just jumbled together.
I tend to agree with you. We need somebody coming in and sort this all out, but I think we're a couple years late.
I think we're 6 years late.
It may be. Maybe
When they
20
moved
years
down
late,
here,
but
and what happened in 2018 and 2019 that the records weren't squared away? You can't find them. Some we can, some you can't. There's gaps in them. Resolutions weren't keeping track of.
Ordinances
Weren't keeping track of. We're trying to straighten this mess out. We didn't create it. The previous administration did. I'm sorry. I don't want to cast blame on anyone. But when you come up here and you tell me that this should have been straightened out before, you're absolutely correct. In 2018 and 2019, it should have been straightened out. In 2020, January 6th, when the administration changed, the records should have been right there. And they weren't. Why?
okay, let me just provide just a slight different twist. I agree with you 100%. Howsoever, I would like to maybe bring up a couple of things. It was either the March timeframe of last year that City Council actually fired Cipher and Cipher and hired.
We didn't fire them.
We moved to put out an RFP for auditing services. That is not firing anyone. There was no motion to
We
fire
didn't
anyone.
fire anyone in March.
The,
If they'd have come in and done their job, they'd still be here.
okay, let me continue this line of thought. If they weren't fired, they were delinquent in their contract because they had a 3-year contract for 17, 18, and 19. They never completed the 19. They are delinquent in that contract. Is there anything that they can be held their feet to the fire over that to get them the documentation they need for
Well,
future?
And that's something, and for full disclosure, there was one email response that we did receive back from Cipher and Cipher indicating that they were going to provide those records, but since that email, there's been no response, and that's when I followed up at that point. You know, the next step for council to take would be for council to discuss as an executive session item if it's pursuing some sort of contract claim or something like that. But I understand what you mean. Yeah, it's very problematic that should have been included that 3rd year and it wasn't performed. And, you know, would that provide some sort of incentive for the city to prompt them to provide those records? I understand.
Okay, well, I think it's very important that that get done, not only for the DCED, but you go into banks to get interim financing, it's difficult to do if you're unaudited and you have balance sheets that don't make sense. So it's a problem.
You are absolutely correct. And the problem lies in
Just don't go on about blaming other people.
No, I'm not blaming anyone.
We haven't
I'm not blaming
started
anybody.
it. What the hell are you talking about?
No, you brought up a question about balance sheets and stuff, and you're absolutely correct. Because when they went to the bank to get a TAN note for 2020, the budget was $1 million out. Whoever did the budget, and I'm somewhat aware of who it was, when they did that budget, they did not do it properly. They were $1 million out. They had $500,000 that they put into real estate taxes that shouldn't have been there. Then the TAN note wasn't properly documented, it's coming in and going out. So when the banks took a look at this mess, they started questioning us. This is not correct, this is out. The reason we didn't get the TAN note was because the budget that was submitted to them was not correct. You can't be out $1 million and a financial organization will look at that and say, oh yeah, these guys got this stuff together. We obviously didn't. And then they also took a look at the cash flows that was coming in. For cash flows for 2016, you were up over $777,000. That's like 1.46 ratio. Then in 2017, it dropped to $456,000. Okay, times are getting tougher. 2018, it dropped to $212,000. That's a 0.40 ratio. Then you take a look in 2019, it was $36,000. It was a 0.07. A lot of that was due to the fact that the Mavrakis administration had gotten rid of the debt collection organization called Portnoy. When they got rid of Portnoy, all these people out there quit paying their garbage bills. We went from $230,000 in accounts receivable that was delinquent to over $730,000 that was delinquent in 2019 and 2020. Why? Because people quit paying their garbage fees. And why? Because they did away with Portnoy. They did away with Portnoy, and then the last administration came in, and apparently the Meta law firm was going to do it. Well, they didn't do it. They passed it on to Marvin Davis. How they expected Marvin Davis to do this, I have no clue. The man is not a lawyer. A lot of this stuff involves filing, what would you call them? When you have to file stuff with the...
Complaints.
Yeah, filing complaints and liens and everything else and going through sheriff's sale. He has no ability to do that. But why did you get rid of the collection agency? Why would you go from under $250,000 to almost $750,000 in delinquencies? Just in 5 years. People knew, people were told, hey, don't worry about it. We're not coming after you. I mean, I'm not sure if someone went out there and said that actually, But, I mean, when you did away with Portnoy, you just opened up the floodgates.
Well, on top of that, there was no collateral either.
Oh, we gave it away. We gave it away when we got rid of the old municipal complex. If you want to enlighten them on that, go right ahead. But just for the public's right to know, last year, our cash flow year end was $425,000. In 1 year, we've turned it around. How? Proper financial management.
That, and you had a tax increase that took place too, which brought in an additional.
That tax
$4,000.
increase, you're absolutely correct.
It
And that
took place
tax
for
increase was
2019.
passed by
Right.
That's 2 years ago.
Councilman Orchakowski, Councilwoman Lois Thomas, and Councilman Dave Feeney. Correct me if I'm wrong. I am not.
Look, maybe then.
Yeah, there wasn't. And that did make a difference. But also, it was sound management. I mean, you take a look at that.
Well, the audit's really what is required to go through the books to make sure
We agree.
that all the stuff is right, whether it be 2019, 2020, or the future of 21.
You're correct.
It's got to happen. And it needs to be somebody calling them every day if they're unresponsive, and then you find another solution to the problem, because it really leaves the whole city in a predicament that's just not desirable. It just, nobody knows.
It's a shame they didn't do their job, isn't it?
Let's don't go there, because there was more than one person involved at the time. There's a total of 5 people on city council at the time.
Yeah, but it's a shame that once we gave them the information, that they didn't receive that information. I'm just still curious as to why not. And I'm very curious as to why someone from city council apparently told them that we had fired them when we hadn't. I don't remember voting to fire anybody.
No, like I said, the motion was to put out an RFP.
That's because they weren't doing the job.
That was before they were even supposed to deliver the.
I don't know.
I think it was February or March
Exactly.
that we did that. I could look back, but it was definitely early in 2020.
You know, we've got to quit blaming everybody and start figuring out ways to get out of the problem. And to me, we got to get an audit done. And
We
that's
do
the
need an
first thing.
audit.
And
And
the second thing is I would appreciate if somebody would research who this project representative is, the resident project representative is, that is during the sewage project, is going to earn $1.7 million. That's over 10% of the USDA loan.
I will definitely look at that and have it for next week. But regardless, the project has to get done.
Oh,
It's been put off for I think 2 mayors now.
Well,
And either we do the project, or we get fined and we pay the fine and have nothing to show for it.
well, the real
So-
problem is I think it goes back at least 10 years, if not more. I forget when the
It's
last.
more.
When I forget exactly when it was. In fact, I think you were mayor at the time. You did a survey of the sewer system and had cameras.
I think it was 2008, actually. I think
Okay,
it would have been
great.
Mayor Patashio.
It was
Okay.
when I was on council.
Okay, so at that time, there was a number of pipelines that were category 5 and a number that were 4. A lot of the 5s have already collapsed and been major
Yep.
problems. But the point being is, we're jumping up and down saying, we gotta get this project done, we gotta get this project done. And it seems like phase 3 is being held back now for a couple of reasons. The DEP is now saying, hey, this environmental study that you did back in the 70s is no longer valid.
Yep.
Well, 50 years ago, it might not be valid. That's one problem. The second problem is that there seems to be a problem getting this interim financing process to get that going.
Mm-hmm.
The whole point being is, we're all jumping up and down and saying, we gotta get this done. The problem is, lines are failing as we talk. Lines that fail that used to be able to be lined with phase 3 are gonna get kicked into late phase 4, which is a replacement
This
project.
should have been done 10 years ago.
I agree 100% with you, without a
It's
doubt.
been kicked down the road.
But that-
The line usage fee could have been increased little by little. It was not.
Okay.
Well, not only the line usage fee, it should have been used appropriately.
Mhm.
Because when they did that $5 increase, that money was supposed to have been put in the Plickett account.
And it was for approximately 3 months, and then they stopped.
Yeah, then they took it out and they spent it on something else. I remember reading the article. As a matter of fact, I have a copy of the Mon Valley Independent article, where Ron Charvelli, and that's why I call it the Charvelli plan. We were going to take that money, that $5, and we were going to put it in his Plickett account.
Yeah.
And that Plickett account was going to help pay for the retention tank. But that money was taken out and spent inappropriately, in my opinion, on other things. That money was not left and used as it should have been used.
And that's the
What did
thing
the
left up to
ordinance
the
say?
auditor.
They had to pass an ordinance or a resolution to charge that $5. What did it say?
I'd have to look at
Where
the
was it
resolution.
supposed to go and what was it
It
supposed
was
to be
supposed to be
for?
used as
And can I say
collateral.
something to Mr. Mosley?
Sure.
Can I explain something that I learned the
Okay,
hard way?
I appreciate it, thank you.
When you get an audit,
Mhm.
they cannot go to the next year's audit until they have the previous year's audit, because they have to. It's a law that they build off of the previous audit. So if they don't have 2019's audit, you're not getting 2020's
I
audit.
have.
Right.
And what you have to do is, Mr. Solicitor, because I had a different solicitor, okay? You have to file something against the auditing company to make sure you get the paperwork. If you don't have it, you're stuck.
Yeah, that's the problem.
We
I agree
can't get
with that 100%.
2018's info to do 2019's to do 2020.
That's where you go after them. They signed a contract with somebody. So if they didn't keep up with their contract, it's time for them to pay the piper. I mean, you can't just let them go.
Oh, I agree. I think we should go after them as hard as we can.
And there should be something put into that because they're holding up the next audit.
And the audit will determine what was misspent and mismanaged, if anything.
Exactly, perfect.
And I'm sure that it will find something.
Well, I don't know if it'll find anything or not, but all I can tell you is I know that there should have been over $300,000 in a Plickett account that should have been used for the retention tank, and it was spent. And I actually have the article on my phone because I didn't understand what was going on until I did some research. That money was supposed to be there. It was supposed to be collateral, especially because of the fact we basically gave away the old complex.
Yep.
We gave that promissory note out there where that building is. We gave it to them, and then 5 years later, they get to pay off the balance. Tim, is that legal?
It raises a lot of questions.
I mean, and if these guys, we gave them the deed. We gave them the deed to the building without being paid in full.
If you buy a house and you take out a mortgage, you don't get to keep the deed until you
We
pay out
gave
the
it to them.
mortgage.
And
So then
I'm
there's-
not gonna say that was Tony's or
No, it
Chakowski's
wasn't
or Lois's
anyone
or
here.
Dave. That was underneath Lou Mavrakis, I believe Ron Charvelli,
Mhm.
Nestor,
Patty.
Patty Bukowski, and Eddie Lee, wasn't it?
Mhm.
That was given, they gave them the deed. We got X number of dollars down, and they have until next June to pay us $190,000.
And there's nothing in there that
And
says
if they
what.
don't do it, guess what? We have to sue them, because there's nothing in there that says it comes back to the city. I mean, what? Calm. What individual could possibly think that was a good thing to do? What kind of person would do such a thing? To give away something and not have any way to make sure that you get the money. That's the problem in the last 6 years. Financial mismanagement.
The bottom line is that right now, our line usage fee has a, what is it, $29?
28.
$28 matter.
27.
Or
$27
27,
ad.
sorry.
The point being is, I think it's only right that the citizens be kept well abreast of how that money is being used with the sewer project.
And they will when the sewer project starts,
I just
which
wish,
is hopefully sooner rather than later.
I just wish that this had happened before so people knew what was happening and where the money was going when it shouldn't be
And
going
this does
there.
not fully solve the problem. This avoids, this phase 3 to do the main lines at 12th, 9th, 6th, 3rd, and Perenni is to avoid catastrophe.
Right.
So that we don't have a 70-foot sinkhole on 9th Street that could swallow up a car.
Right, I think everybody knows it's not a $20 million project, it's probably closer to a $40 million project.
And every year that it's been delayed, it's gone up and up and up.
Right, and it's going to continue going up.
Yep.
Well,
6 years ago, the estimate was $18 million for everything. Now, It's a partial project, and it's $22 million.
And it goes back to what I was saying, lines are failing fast.
Yep, they're 120 years old.
Let's figure out a way to work together, quit fighting over this thing, to get the problem solved.
I'm not sure who's
Go
fighting
forward.
over it.
No, we're trying to push this
As of
along.
right now, I don't see anyone fighting over it. It seems like we're all trying to get this pushed through. The problem lies in is that we can't get that bridge loan because our credit's been destroyed over the last 6 years. And,
But yet you've talked about how wonderfully you've improved things in the last year.
yeah.
We have, but it's still
Yeah.
not
But it's not
100%.
audited and it's not an analysis
Exactly.
that makes
We
sense.
have to get there, and we have to overcome all the mistakes that have been made in the last 3 or 4 years. We have to fix the problem, and we're working on it. But when you're dealing with someone that won't give you the information, now this has been going on for months.
Well, you shouldn't have been allowed to go for months. For months, solicitor should have been on it. You should have instructed him to do something.
He did. There's a process, unfortunately. You filed suit against us. It's a process. Nothing occurs in 2 weeks. You know that. You've been through the process. It goes as fast as it goes. I wish I could say that we could file against these guys and 2 weeks later, everything had been resolved.
Or if they just give you information.
Or they just give us the information. Why aren't they? What logical earthly
All
reason
I'm
do
going
they
to ask you,
have?
please do, and report back to us. I would like to know myself.
I would like to. The last person that contacted them was Councilman Orchakowski. He talked to them. Maybe he has a line in that he can contact them and find out why. You'd have to ask him.
Who's the county and finance director? Let's get going on it.
We have been. We've actually gone to the lawyers because they won't respond. Or when they do respond, we'll get it to you, then a month goes by and they don't
We're
get
going in
it.
circles, so let's sit down. But thank you very much, I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Okay, I have a couple announcements on top of correspondence before we get into it. Just to let you all know, there's going to be a vaccine clinic at Rite Aid this week for Monessen residents only. They have 100 doses available. I was able to partner with Rite Aid to secure 100 doses. It's a Moderna vaccine. So Monessen residents that are interested can call Rite Aid, deal directly with them. It will run from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. all week. So that's happening. That's really good. Also, I don't know if everyone has a copy of this or not, but we received this afternoon an email from Mark Valora of the Monessen Planning Commission, and I'll read the email. In preparation for this evening's work session, please note to the council that the Monessen Planning Commission will recommend, per the comprehensive plan, a best front yard contest to be awarded each month to a resident of the city. I will reach out to the Monessen Environmental Advisory Board to see if some of those members would also like to help kick off this program. I think a panel of 5 would suffice, for which they will choose a winner chosen from online submissions or recommendations. The winner will be given a yard sign proclaiming the best yard of the month, best mark. So that's like a way to kind of like promote community spirit and kind of clean up some neighborhoods. So I'm sure they'll be sending out more information once they get it. He just sent that to get it on council's radar. So then we'll go into the other correspondence. Monessen will hold a community cleanup day. Volunteers are needed. Saturday, April 17th, 2021, 8 a.m. to noon. And the rain date will be April 24th, 2021, 8 a.m. to noon. We will also hold a second electronics recycling event in conjunction with the cleanup. Residents can drop off the items at the city garage. The one we did last year was incredibly successful. And, you know, people were able to bring refrigerators and appliances, TVs, that sort of thing. And we would rather do the work to get them to the city garage than see them on the side of a street somewhere or in an empty lot. And also, if anyone sees random tires lying around or anything like that, we can pile those up at the city garage too and get those recycled. The areas that we should focus on, ideally, 9th Street and 9th Street Park, 6th Street and 6th Street Park, 3rd Street, the area along Ross Draver Street, like the wooded area along the hillside between Linden McKee, which it's a little difficult to get to, but there's a bunch of tires and things there. There's a way down there. You're giving me a look. It's not easy, but there's a way. Also, Perenni Boulevard, Grand Boulevard. So, but ideally, even if residents aren't up for that, if you just clean your own street or your own area, like that would be an improvement too. So we're working to get some kids involved, some community groups, so anyone can come out and help. Then Westmoreland Cleanways, this is separate. Westmoreland Cleanways and Recycling in Latrobe has scheduled a household hazardous waste collection also on April 17th from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Pre-registration required for the event, and they give a phone number, 412-567-6566. That's, paint, cleaners, that sort of thing that's hard to get rid of, that you're not supposed to throw in the garbage. And, what's that?
Or dump down the
Or
street.
down the sewers, yes. Item C, we touched on this earlier.
Location.
What's that? Oh, sorry. Yeah, Westmoreland Cleanways is at 355 Pleasant Unity Mutual Road, Greensburg, PA 15601. Item C, we touched on this a little bit earlier. Amendment 1 to the agreement for the engineering services by and between the City of Monessen and WEC has been approved by the USDA, and that is the fee schedule. Is it based on prevailing wage?
That one's not based on
Okay.
prevailing. This
I wasn't
is,
sure.
apparently they're adjusting it for their 2021 rates, but they did note that it won't increase the overall cost for engineering services to the budget as was provided in the initial.
That rate is set by USDA.
Mm-hmm.
That has nothing to do with the engineering firm or the council.
Right.
They set that rate.
Yeah.
They said everything.
Yeah.
They give the money, they tell us how to spend the money. Item, what's that? Oh, that's-
537, I go with it.
Oh, sorry. We have, and I'll put this at the code counter, the sewer rehabilitation project, the Act 537 plan update. It looks like we killed a few trees to make this, so anyone could review this.
It was previously in 1971.
1971. So this is the update from 71 to 2021. So that'll be up at the code counter for the public to take a look at. And I believe I put it on the website as well. That's what Ned sent me, I think, yeah. So I believe it's on the website as well. Next, we received correspondence from DCED. Dear Mayor Sherraw, on behalf of Governor Tom Wolf, I am pleased to inform you that the Department of Community and Economic Development, DCED, has approved a grant in the amount of $313,907 for the City of Monessen. These funds are provided through the Department's 2020 Community Development Block Grant Program. The contract for the approved grant will be sent to your office for electronic signature. So this is our annual CDBG application, so that was approved.
They weren't prevailing wages.
Yeah, that is prevailing wage as well.
Are those for the demos and things like that?
Yeah.
Are we gonna get a list together?
I think there already is a list. Is there, John? Do we have a list?
This is last year's, we were over the.
Oh, this is, oh yeah, because it's always a year behind.
Right, that's what I mean,
That's right.
this is a new, but,
Yeah.
So these funds are for the application you submitted last year.
Yeah.
So the hearings and public comment that was taken last year, to
Right.
prepare and council approved that application to be sent to DCD. This is the approval for the funds for that
Yeah.
application.
So that's already done.
So you guys already would have submitted and approved these projects.
so can you we don't have that listed, I don't think you have a document of the ones that we submitted for that, can you just resend that to us?
Yeah, we'll have to dig it up because I don't remember what it is, honestly.
Yes, I'd like to see what we had down for that submission.
Mhm.
We could have that for next meeting.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, that's fine.
It'd be good to remember too, because I don't remember.
Right, that's a year ago, thank you.
And then we also received another letter from DCED. We received the economic, or DCD's grant for the Strategic Management Planning Program, and that's for technical assistance for the new Blight Review Board and the Planning Commission to come up with a blight strategy plan. We approved that resolution in January, so there was a pretty quick turnaround with this grant. So that's in the amount of $36,450. And that's part of the, to enter phase 2 of the Strategic Management Planning Program to assist the city with training, professional consulting, and technical services. It says your project enhances Governor Wolf's efforts to revitalize and grow communities in Pennsylvania.
They don't have the next item yet.
Oh, okay. So just so you guys know, you don't have the next item F. We will get it to you. You received this today, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is the agreement for that grant, because specifically the grant was to work with DCED, Local Government Academy, and the Housing Alliance of Pennsylvania. So this is the agreement that we have to enter in for with the Housing Alliance for that grant, as per DCED.
$300.
For the SCNP grant.
Say that again.
For the SCNP grant you just talked about?
Correct. Yeah, so I'll just read the scope of service. The consultant, the Housing Alliance of Pennsylvania is hereby engaged to perform the following: 300 hours of technical assistance total for the following 3 areas: comprehensive blight plan, 5-step fast-track method, land banks, locally driven technical assistance, and code enforcement best practices. All 300 hours of service for this contract must be completed by June 30th of 2023.
Was this agreement previously approved by council or?
No, that's what we're going to have to do.
Yeah, you'll vote.
Yeah.
Okay.
We just got this today, so this is part of that grant. Also, I have the Environmental Advisory Board minutes for February 10th, 2021. It seems that the board is really excited to get started, and I'll read the members and their positions. Mary Jo Smith is the chairwoman, Marcia Adams secretary, Gina Aiello treasurer, Mark Ballora and Candace Kelly are also on the board. So they talked about the availability of open spaces and vacant lots, and finding ideas for environmental conservation, forming ideas and plans from what other successful or similar municipalities are doing, researching information about riverfront urban renewal programs, municipal stormwater separation. They will, by ordinance, they will help us enlighten the public on MS4. They're working on developing a mission statement and planning for fundraisers. They're looking at creating and finding teams to be involved with apiaries in the community, and getting community youth and older adults involved in intergenerational programming. And they are hoping to utilize CalU's botany, fisheries, and wildlife programs to do all of this. So that's really exciting, and I know that there's a lot of overlap with the Shade Tree Commission and the Environmental Board, so they're going to try to work together on a lot of those projects. And then item H, just to touch base on this, so Congress passed the American Rescue Plan that the President signed into law, and based on public documents from the U.S. Senate that the solicitor provided me with, I don't remember where the link is specifically, and this is fluctuating, but the city is expected to receive roughly $715,000 from the American Rescue Plan as passed by Congress. There are stipulations that you cannot use it for pension, and you cannot use it to lower taxes. So those are the only 2 stipulations. And so obviously council will have to vote on this and discuss it. The money still hasn't come in, so I don't know when we're expected to see it. But we should pay off the debts that are left from 2019, the short-term debt. And we should put as much as possible into Pliget so that it can grow interest. And I would also like to see us pave Evergreen Avenue, which is not eligible for CDBG because no one lives on it, because it runs through the 2 cemeteries. It is one of the most complained about streets that I hear from residents. And since it's not CDBG eligible, there's not really any other funding out there for it. But obviously, once we get the money and once we know what specific amount we're going to get, then we can decide what's going to happen.
Evergreen runs in between Holy Name, Grandview, and then
St. Hyacinth.
St. Hyacinth.
Yeah, it goes from
Cemetery.
Leeds and Rostraver down to Westmoreland.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, and it's,
pretty
the
rough.
potholes are unavoidable. I mean, as I've said before, there are 32 roads that are really in dire condition in the city. But that one, since it's not eligible for other funding, that's why I would choose that one. But obviously, we could discuss that when the time comes.
That's gonna take a lot of money, because that road has,
$54,000.
yeah. What are you going to do to that road?
It has to be ripped up and a new sub base put in.
Not only that, you have to put drains in.
Yeah.
Because that's that water coming off of St. Hyacinth is
Yeah,
causing all the
it's
problems.
included in the calculation of 54,000, because we have a breakdown of like all of the streets and their lengths and the estimate of what it would cost to do them all based on the cost of blacktop and all of that. So there's like a calculation. John gave me a spreadsheet with all 165 streets. So.
And the federal government's still looking at the regulations and guidelines, so they may put stipulations on some of those funds,
Mhm.
but we'll know that obviously before
Yeah.
the city gets those funds.
I'm sure we'll get, when we get the money, we'll get some
And
sort
not
of
only,
notice.
not only that, you know, they're gonna do that, but the stipulations are gonna change depending on how some of the bigger cities, like New York, Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, San Diego, Los Angeles, San Diego, Portland, Seattle, those cities are the ones that actually will be setting the guidelines, because they'll be the ones going to the federal government saying, hey, we need to spend money here, we need to spend money there, and that's where the guidelines will be set.
Mhm.
It's just like underneath the payment protection plan. First it started out as very rigid, and then as time went by, it became much more relaxed, and you could spend it on different things. I actually look forward for that to happen with this program, as the people, and I'm going to tell you, it's going to be complaints from the big cities to the federal government, that we need to spend this money here and you're not letting us do it.
Mhm.
And it's going to be an ongoing process. It's going to evolve over time. It's going to change. It's just what they do.
Yeah. But it's really exciting that we're able to get this, pay off some of these bills that we've had.
And right now, flip the coin.
Yeah, yeah.
Because you don't know what the restrictions are really going to be until the process is completed.
Okay, item A of the next section. We have a request by the municipal fire chief to purchase the following item: 93 Draeger 45 PSI 45-minute SCBA cylinders, $691 each, total of $63,263. The fire department's air cylinders have a 15-year lifespan. They're 17 years old. And we can't expect them to go into a burning building, risking their lives, and not have the proper breathing equipment. And so we need to find a way to make this happen. They've been unsuccessful at getting grants over the last few years. With COVID, they haven't been able to fundraise as much as they need to, and so this is very important. This is risking their lives. So when the chief approached me about this, I said that I would absolutely put it up for discussion. So the quote from Howell Rescue Systems, the backpacks we already have, so we have to replace the cylinders, and this specific model has to go with those packs. This is, to my understanding, the only company in Pennsylvania that has this model for the packs that we need. And it would be stupid to buy the packs when we already have them. We just need to sell it first.
$6,300 a pack.
Yeah, so.
Well, the air packs have been maintained. They come in every year and they go over them. As you were saying about the bottles, they have a 15-year lifespan. They're a composite aluminum wound bottle, and they're rated at 15 years. Even if they pass the hydrostatic test, they punch a hole in them when they read the collar and and the date's on it, they punch a hole in the tank, and they send it back to you. We can't afford, the fire departments cannot afford to purchase these. And a lot of it, you know, we were planning on spending money on it this year, but with the COVID-19 restrictions, it destroyed fundraising. Our budget at Hilltop, which I can speak to because I do happen to be your treasurer, we operated on a $50,000 a year budget. We've probably taken in 20,000 of that. So we ended up with a shortfall of over $30,000. And without that funding, it's very difficult to maintain the trucks. Just to buy turnout gear as it gets worn and weathered. And I'm so glad that I saw this on the agenda because we were in quite a predicament. We were scrambling to have enough air packs for the guys to go in the buildings. And without these bottles, we can't do it. So thank you for putting it on the agenda.
I mean, they're risking their lives one way or another, but they're really risking their lives if they don't have the proper breathing equipment. So it needs to happen. We need to find a way to make it happen. Item B, the police contract changes have been agreed upon by the union and the administration team. Obviously, council will need to approve that. So it's quite lengthy, but the changes, I'll read the summaries. So for sick and accident insurance, a benefit of $150 a week to $400 a week. Maternity would be considered an illness as per the union. There's no written summary benefits explaining what is covered by this insurance. With maternity, completed forms from the doctors stating they can no longer work. The benefit starts on the 4th day after the last day worked. All of their sick and accident issues with completed forms from the doctors stating they can no longer work. The benefit starts on the day after the last day worked. And employees can purchase AFLAC maternity. For maternity, you must be in the program a year before. For vacation, they would, instead of 8-hour shifts, they would go to 12-hour shifts, which they have been working on since November on 12-hour shifts. And in the long run, we're actually saving money because there's more flexibility and less overtime with those 12-hour shifts. So the vacations, less than 1 year of service, no vacation, 1 to 4 years, 7 days, 5 to 9 years, 10 days, 10 to 14 years, 14 days, 15 to 19 years, 17 days, and 20 or more years is 20 days. Sick time is 120 hours annually. Personal days is 36 hours a year. For the classification, we'll move from a 5-step graduated scale to a 3-step graduated scale. So for new hires, it's 90%, 95%, 100%. If no supervisor is available for a shift, the senior qualified officer on duty shall assume the supervisor's duties and paid sergeant rate for all hours worked as the supervisor. There was a uniform change just to remove 5.11 because that's not a type of uniform anymore. All full-time officers shall reside within 25 air miles of the city of Monessen border. Under additional items, an officer can only work a maximum of an 18-hour shift. We had officers, and it was out of necessity when back in November, the department really worked hard with 4 officers when everyone else was sick, doing 20-hour shifts. And that really took a toll on them. But they were dedicated to it. But that is not healthy. It's not safe for them. It's not safe for the city. Bereavement and holiday will be paid during probation time. The city agrees to supply new part-time officers with 2 short-sleeve uniform shirts, 2 long-sleeve shirts, and 2 pairs of uniform pants. The contract duration will be from retroactive January 1st, 2021 through December 31st, 2025. Wages, agree to work 12-hour shifts. sick, personal, and vacation will be paid in 12-hour shifts. We'll add sergeant back to the ranks, and $1 an hour increase per year for full-time officers. So captain would be at $31.59 an hour, detective lieutenant $30.59 an hour, lieutenant $30.31 an hour, sergeant $29.59 an hour, and patrolman $28.87 an hour. Part-time is $20 plus 50-cent raise each year. All full-time officers would get paid an 8-hour holiday at regular rate. You must work the scheduled day before and after the holiday to receive holiday pay. Full-time officers that work the holiday will also be paid 1.5 times their regular pay rate for the hours worked. So in order to cover all of that, we really worked on negotiating to address the healthcare issue that has been ongoing with the police. So all of this next information is regarding the health insurance. The city shall provide health care insurance similar to or better than UPMC Small Business Advantage Gold PPO, $2,500. The city of Monessen is responsible for the health care insurance plan premiums and the in-network deductible, $2,500 per individual and $5,000 per family. All full-time officers will be required to pay $100 a month towards their health care insurance plan in the year 2021, $110 a month in 2022, $120 a month in 2023, $130 a month in 2024, and $140 a month in 2025. All full-time officers will be responsible for any out-of-pocket medical expenses, including any co-pays. The city has the option to review CHIP program or city-provided healthcare insurance plan for coverage for your children. Under either plan, your children will have healthcare coverage to age 26 unless they are working and have comparable coverage offered by their employer. This is only comparing coverage, not cost, even if the plan requires the dependent to contribute to insurance costs. At that time, the city will be relieved of the obligation to provide insurance benefits to the dependent. At any time prior to the dependent's 26th birthday, if their work status changes and are no longer eligible to receive comparable health coverage from their employer, they can return to the city-provided health care. Any employee whose spouse is eligible for comparable health care insurance coverage with the spouse's employer, again, this is only comparing coverage, not cost, even if the plan requires the spouse to contribute to insurance costs, will no longer be eligible for coverage through the city of Monessen. The city will be relieved of the obligation to provide insurance benefits to the spouse. If the spouse's work status changes and are no longer eligible to receive comparable health coverage from their employer, they can return to the city-provided health care. On an annual basis, a spouse who seeks health care coverage through the city shall complete a verified statement on a form prepared by the city, which shall include the spouse's job status and availability for benefits. The spouse will agree to sign an authorization permitting the spouse's employer to provide information to the city regarding spouse's health care benefits status. Receipt of coverage or receipt of benefits from the city by a spouse of a bargaining unit member in violation of this provision shall entitle the city to impose a surcharge upon the bargaining unit member and spouse in an amount equal to the amount expended by the city in healthcare premiums and deductibles for the ineligible spouse during the period of ineligibility. Any bargaining unit member who is eligible to receive healthcare insurance coverage through another source and chooses to receive said coverage shall receive annually $5,000 in lieu of the city's healthcare insurance plan. The city shall make payments to the employee on their bi-weekly paycheck for choosing the alternative healthcare insurance coverage. For
What was it before, Matt? What was it before?
it was it 3,500 us for people to be able to do that. So that's just to provide a little incentive for them to do it. Under retired, any full-time officer retiring after December 31st, 2020, obtaining a minimum 20-year service will remain eligible for coverage under the city's healthcare insurance plan until Medicare eligible. The city is responsible for the healthcare insurance plan premium and deductible only. The employee will be financially responsible for all out-of-pocket medical expenses, including any co-pays, and must pay the city the same current monthly contribution paid by the full-time active officers. The retiree will continue to pay his contribution amount for insurance per the contract rate. This payment is due on the first of every month. If the retired member's monthly insurance contribution is 60 days late, the insurance will be canceled and the city will be relieved of the obligation to provide future insurance benefits. Any employee whose spouse was eligible for health care insurance coverage with the City of Monessen prior to the employee retirement date will be eligible for coverage under the city's health care insurance plan unless they are eligible for comparable coverage under their employer, and again, this is only comparing coverage, not cost, or Medicare eligible. The city is responsible for the health care insurance plan premium and deductible only. The spouse is financially responsible for all out-of-pocket medical expenses, including co-pays. The retiree will continue to pay his contribution amount for insurance per the contract rate. This payment is due on the first of every month. If the retired member's monthly insurance contribution is 60 days late, the insurance will be canceled and the city will be relieved of the obligation to provide future insurance benefits. Upon member retirement, the city will be relieved of the obligation to pay for any of the employee's dependent children's insurance benefit costs. The retiree can continue coverage for their dependent children until age 26 at city premium cost and is responsible for all out-of-pocket medical expenses, including co-pays or deductibles. Upon member retirement, the city will be relieved of the obligation to provide insurance benefits for any new family members. Should a retiree obtain employment from an entity that offers comparable insurance plans, only comparing coverage, not cost, the city will no longer be responsible for healthcare, vision, or dental insurance coverage, no matter whether the retiree must pay for the coverage or does not accept the coverage. The city will be relieved of the obligation to provide to the retired employee and spouse insurance benefits. Should a retiree lose his health insurance plan with his post-retirement employer, he may return to the health insurance program offered by the city for a maximum of 7 years or until Medicare eligible. The city is responsible for the health care insurance plan premium and deductible only. The employee will be financially responsible for all out-of-pocket medical expenses, including any co-pays, and must pay the city the same current monthly contribution paid by the full-time active officers. The retiree will continue to pay his contribution amount for insurance per the contract rate. This payment is due on the first of every month. If the retired member's monthly insurance contribution is 60 days late, the insurance will be canceled and the city will be relieved of the obligation to provide future insurance benefits. At Medicare eligible age of the employee, the city will be relieved of the obligation to provide insurance benefits, including health care, vision, and dental to the employee and spouse. Upon the death of the member, whether pre or post-retirement, the city shall continue to pay the premium and deductibles for the surviving spouse and dependents for 3 years if they were eligible for health care insurance coverage before the death of the member. Officers retired prior to December 31st, 2020 will not be affected by these changes. And it is the employee's responsibility to provide accurate information to the city, to complete all necessary forms provided by the city, and to update their information if it changes. The city will not be held responsible for any issues that arise due to an employee's failure to fulfill any of the above obligations. So this has been 7 months, I think, of back and forth. And we think that, you know, the union seems happy, and I'm personally happy about this. The insurance has been a sticking point. It's cost the city a lot of money. We obviously want to be able to compensate the officers, but we also can't have these huge costs long term. So a lot of this is best practice from other municipalities. I know the 7-year cap on the time between retirement and Medicare age, that's something that Jeanette and Connellsville both do. So it makes sense, and everyone seems happy with this. And I don't remember, John mentioned at some point, I think, how much we could save on this. Like, I think it was a percentage, but I don't remember off the top of my head. But obviously the insurance savings will be considerable in the long term. And this has been snowballing for 30 years, so this will help to like calm that down and start on a better track with this. So that's where we are with that. So council can take a closer look at all of that. I wanted to be sure to read it into the record, because when the insurance stuff happened at the end of last year, there was a whole lot of misinformation, and I don't want that to happen again. So that's why you all had to sit here and listen to me read that whole thing, because I want people to hear what these changes are, and again, that it will not affect people who retired before December 31st, 2020. So current retirees are on the contracts that they retired under, period. did you have a question? You look like you, no. Okay. And upon this contract approval, Chief Smith is requesting for council to hire 3 new police officers. I'm going to read his email from March 24th. Matt, as per our conversation yesterday regarding the police department and the hiring of new police officers, we currently employ 11 full-time uniform officers. We also have Officer Smartcheck, who is attached as a full-time task force officer with the DEA. Our Officer Smartcheck is not available to cover uniform officer shifts, but has covered shifts in emergency situations. According to the FBI, according to FBI recommendations in many studies, the ratio of full-time uniform officers per 1,000 residents ranges from 2.8 per 1,000 to 1.8 per 1,000, with an average ratio of 2.5 full-time officers per 1,000 residents. Many communities rely on this model to make staffing decisions. If you take these recommendations, national average of 2.5 per 1,000, with our approximate population of 7,000 residents, including Douglas students, merchants, etc., our department should be staffed with 17 and a half full-time uniformed officers. According to the national average, we are significantly understaffed. We currently have 3 individuals eligible for employment with the City of Monessen Police Department: Justin Woodard, Zachary Powell, and Britton Laird. My suggestion is that we hire all 3 individuals as soon as possible. We would need to get these officers properly trained, and that will take a minimum of 3 weeks per officer. Uniforms and other equipment must be ordered for these officers prior to training. We're beginning vacation season for the officers in our department. At least 1 officer is on vacation each week from now until the end of October. Not having enough officers to cover these vacations is going to cost us overtime, not to mention that there are carryover vacations and personal days from 2020 when our officers sacrificed that time to work when their co-workers were out with COVID. We also have an officer who has to honor her commitment to the Air Force Reserves. She will not be available for approximately 1 month later this summer. There is also always the potential for an officer to be off for an extended period of time because of an injury here at work. I hope that never happens, but it's a reality of our job. Because of our lack of manpower over the past several years, we have not been able to send officers for necessary training. We need officers other than myself, Captain Uhas, and Lieutenant Thompson trained for various jobs within the department, from TAC officer to evidence technician to field training officer to firearms instructor, and several other positions that state and federal regulations require departments to have officers certified in. Disciplining officers has been difficult, knowing that if I have to send someone home or execute a suspension, it costs the department money, again, because we do not have the manpower to cover the necessary shifts. I would also request that the city advertise and implement a test for the purpose of, again, composing a list of qualified individuals for employment. We currently have 2 part-time officers to cover shifts on housing authority property and assist in manning unfilled full-time positions. With the civil service regulations and rules, we should have several part-time officers who are employed and working in the city, who then become eligible for promotion to full-time employment. Since the implementation of the new civil service rules and officers leaving for employment elsewhere, we have not only depleted our full-time ranks, but also our part-time ranks. Not having a pool of part-time officers who are eligible to be promoted to full-time positions is why there is always a gap in the time it takes to hire an officer and have that officer trained and ready to run a patrol shift properly. Thank you for your time and attention to these issues, and thank you for helping to get the problems with the contract resolved, hopefully. Jim Smith.
What's the approximate cost per year of an officer?
I can't remember, honestly. It's several thousand. I can't remember. With benefits and pay and training. The chief would definitely know that.
Did you have us for that next meeting?
I know he's mentioned it before, but I can't remember specifically.
I need to be excused for a few minutes.
Okay.
2887 per hour, just a basic patrol.
Say that again. Yeah, but I think he meant like with benefits and training and everything else.
$42 an hour.
42.
There's that step.
Yeah. The step comes into play. Right now it's 5 steps. I'll just Councilman Gregor had to step out for a minute, but I'll keep going. Item D, the Resolution 10 of 2021, a resolution of the City of Monessen, Westmoreland County, Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, to adopt an amendment to the official sewage facilities plan. Again, the binder will be up at the code counter for public review, and the resolution will be voted on May 11th meeting, and it's on the website as well if anyone would like to look at that. Item E, Ordinance 1232, an ordinance of the City of Monessen, Westmoreland County, Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, establishing a Youth and Young Citizens Board by and for the City of Monessen, providing definitions, establishing a board purpose, duties, qualifications, requirements, and procedures, establishing long-term goals, and providing for an effective date. That will be the second reading of that ordinance. Item F, Ordinance 1233, an ordinance of the City of Monessen, Westmoreland County, Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, amending Ordinance 15 of 1971, Ordinance 708, establishing Ordinance 3 that should read amending Ordinance 3 of 2018, Ordinance 1207, establishing duties, procedures, and a purpose for Recreation Board by and for the City of Monessen, providing terms, regulating membership, repealing inconsistent ordinances, and providing for an effective date. That's the second reading of that. Item G, let me pull this up because this is a new one. Item G is Ordinance 1234, for first reading, an ordinance of the City of Monessen, Westmoreland County, Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, permitting the operation of mobile food vehicles in certain locations within the City of Monessen, establishing rules, regulations, and operating procedures for mobile food vehicle, establishing permitting, enforcement, and inspection procedures, fees, violations, and penalties for mobile food vehicles, and providing for an effective date. So this one is this would be pretty new for Monessen. As some of you may know, that we had a coffee food truck in downtown a few weeks ago, and it was incredibly successful. I've heard from numerous residents about their desire to have a food truck festival somewhere in the city, and there's more interest in food trucks now. So it would be in our best interest to put together some sort of process for them to be in the city where they can be, that sort of thing. So this mostly covers downtown, obviously with the exclusion of alleys. And then, of course, if there's events going on at any of the parks, they could come to council like any other entity, like to request use of the park for an event or what have you. It puts a permitting process through the code enforcement officer for these permits. Obviously, enforcement and violations. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Am I missing anything, Tim, on this? I think that pretty much covers it. So,
Food truck on? Yeah.
what's that? The food truck? Yeah. So you guys can take a look at this one. It's becoming more and more popular, so we definitely want to cover ourselves. When I was approached about having the coffee food truck, there's nothing that says we can't have them, and there's nothing that says we can have them, and there's no process to allow them to operate. And they are a business as well. I think some businesses might look at it as taking away from established businesses, but I don't think that's the case. You could promote foot traffic and then get more people. I know that the day that the coffee truck was by the library was full of people, which was really nice to see. Obviously, we're not going to put, I know the coffee shop is supposed to open at the old city building. Obviously, when that happens, we're not going to put a coffee food truck right in front of the coffee shop. Like, that would just, there's no rules against it, but that would just be rude and unprofessional. So we don't want to directly compete with businesses by putting these trucks near already existing businesses, but we should allow for them. And like I said, there's a desire to do food trucks at City Park over the summer. I know a group that is working on that will be presenting to us soon, and I think we're on item G, the food truck ordinance. So yeah, I think it would be a good thing for the city to help us attract business and people. We need more foot traffic here. So And then item H, another first reading, ordinance 1235, an ordinance of the City of Monessen, Westmoreland County, Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, establishing regulations for the installation and maintenance of fire alarms and other certain alarm systems, establishing penalties for false alarms, and providing for an effective date. Councilman Gregor, do you want to talk about false alarms and fire alarms?
Yeah, the departments have been having an issue with responding to certain locales, which will remain nameless, because their fire alarm systems are defective, and they haven't been repairing them, or we're having malicious false alarms, individuals setting them off. And every time that happens, you set into motion between 25 and 30 people, and anywhere from 2 to half a dozen pieces of apparatus, and you're creating a hazard. We want to be able to go after these people, and I guess it would be some monetary recovery for us on having to make these calls, which would also be an incentive for them to fix their systems and to make sure that these false alarms stop.
So this ordinance would ultimately, there's regulations on disconnecting and reconnecting alarms, but the biggest thing in this ordinance is a penalty for false alarms. So for the first 3 false alarms, you would have no penalty.
First 2?
The first 3. I'm on section 11.
Yeah, we're gonna have to.
Third response would be $100.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, yeah, that should say 2. Yeah. So the first 2, let me make a note. The first 2, there's no fee. The third false alarm is $100. The fourth false alarm is $150. The fifth is $200, and the sixth and above is $400. Hopefully, it would never come to that. The owner, as to all fire alarm malfunctions responded by the fire department, the owner shall be assessed a fee of $200 unless there is a return to the fire department an affidavit of service repair deemed satisfactory by the municipal fire chief. So this is to make sure that their fire alarms are not malfunctioning, that these false alarms stop. So this would put those violations, and it wouldn't, like, if this was adopted, they'd have 60 days from the date of this ordinance to get everything together. That's in section 13. Trying to think. Anything else?
Number 5, under 11,
Number 11.
Well, yeah. That's another thing.
they violate those.
Oh, okay, so we might have to adjust item 5. For any person that violates any provision of this ordinance, including failure to pay the required fees, shall be subject to the following penalties. And so right now it says, first violation in any calendar year, a fine of $1,000 or 30 days imprisonment or both, to be assessed along with appropriate unpaid fees paid to the city. Second violation, $2,000 or 45 days imprisonment or both. And third, $3,000 or 60 days imprisonment or both. So we'll have to look at that and make sure that if we cap it at 1,000, then maybe we could do like 250, 500, 1,000.
Exactly. Yeah, because I think the third-class city code limits
Okay.
criminal penalties to $1,000
Okay.
maximum.
But there still, regardless, should be some sort of penalty for this. So it is a safety issue if we allow it to occur. And we have the ability to regulate it, so we might as well.
Yeah. We've been called out at 3 in the morning because someone forgot their key, so they pulled the fire alarm so someone could come in and let her in at 3 in the morning. Those are always fun, aren't they?
Sure.
The problem is, it's a cry wolf situation when they don't fix the alarm. You know, that's the whole thing. If they have a defective alarm, we don't want to bill anybody. You know, that's our job, we go. But the thing is, when it gets to third, fourth time, and they're not fixing the alarm, like I said, it's a cry wolf situation, false alarm, false alarm, false alarm. We get up and go. Now people don't start going because they know it's a false alarm. Next thing you know, you got a fully involved structure fire. So it pays to get the alarm fixed.
Okay, item I through item L are right of entry agreements between the redevelopment authority of Westmoreland County and the city of Monessen. This is for the funding through the county for the demolition of properties. Is that the $75,000, right? So.
It'll be more like 100,000.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What did we get last year?
25,000.
How did you get 100,000 this year?
I submitted enough for 100,000. You gotta push them a little bit.
Ask and you shall
What I
receive.
found out.
Did you get it approved by then?
Yes, it's been approved. What I found out last year is that New Kensington had 75,000 and Arnold had 50 or 60,000, and we had 25 and 25 the year before. So I put together 75 to 100,000 and told them we need this, it's our time to get the money. And they take it down. They do all the bidding and everything is done by the county.
That was like that structure on Third Street.
On Third Street, right, yeah. So we have 4 structures in here,
And they took down one last year, one the year before.
1 year before.
We've increased it to 4 this year.
4 this year, yeah.
So the structures, 523 6th Street, that is the building to the right of the former Sons of Italy, if you recall. It's like a red building. The middle collapsed. Oddly enough, it wasn't tax delinquent. Whoever had it was paying the taxes on it, which is good, but I mean, it's collapsing, so. That's one. But that,
That bill is going to the redevelopment authority to do what, to knock it down?
yes, the county, the red, it's the red one, 2 doors down.
I know exactly which
Yeah.
one it is. I know exactly which one it is.
Yep. Then 500 to 502 3rd Street, that's the first, I think that street was like East Linden or something originally, now it's just a driveway, but there's 2 houses with double porches. So 500 to 502 and 504 to 506 are both coming down, they're 2 in a row.
Those are the 2 that are collapsing.
Yes, they're collapsing. And then 533 Ontario Street is the big apartment building on the corner of Indiana, Shawnee, and Ontario. So that one will be coming down too.
The roof's in the basement.
Yeah, the roof is in the basement, so.
Air conditioning.
And then, so.
I think this is just like, excuse me one thing. In the $715,000 we're receiving, the county received 107,000, or I'm sorry, 107 million. They gave 35 million to 65 municipalities, and they kept 70 million in the county. So that was my impetus to build this up and go after the money. They have it, and we should get a lot more than we've been getting. So,
And you don't get it if you don't ask.
that's right,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely.
So these next, item M, I assume these are lots, Joan?
These are,
These quick claim deeds
yeah, this is,
for 908 Locust.
yeah, that's lot.
Okay, so these next, item M, item N, item O, and item P are all lots. So we have these quick claim deeds, and what we also have, the solicitor drafted a development agreement. And since we have so much interest in vacant properties now, this process that we should do, that we will be doing is, so anyone, this goes for the tax forgiveness thing, this goes for lots, and there's different language for each of the development agreements the solicitor has prepared agreements for each instance. But basically, in short, if you are acquiring a property that, whether you're asking for tax forgiveness or you're asking to get an empty lot or what have you, you'll sign this agreement that you're going to either bring it up to code if it's a property, a house or what have you, or that you're going to keep it in code if it's an empty lot. We obviously want to cut and maintain no trash and that sort of thing. And you also will have to provide a proposal of what you're going to do with the property. We don't want real estate speculation. So if you're going to use it as a yard, great. If you're going to build a house, great. But we need to know what you're going to do with it.
That's legal, Tim?
You mean to request?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, a lot of municipalities use those development agreements to make sure that, to the extent that they're supporting, development of property, that the properties are actually used for what their intended use is. So, you as a condition for council, you as a condition to approve those requests can be conditioned on entering into a developer's agreement, development agreements that has stipulations about what the property is going to be used for, how it's going to be maintained, how it's going to be developed, and certain timelines for when that would or wouldn't occur.
And I know we've done this for, I think, about 8 properties over the last 5 months or so.
Yeah.
The pawn shop being one of them. There's houses on Delaware. There's a few more. I feel like it's about 8 or so. So we've had this precedent now, so we need to do it for everyone.
And the reason we're bringing this up, because we have to approve it at council first before it goes on there.
Yeah, each is a case-by-case basis for each property. So, and that also, I know that we talked about this last month, and I'm hoping that we could get it addressed at the council meeting. That goes for Mr. Strawn's empty lots that he's requesting as well. That would be item Q for 1004 to 1006 Knox, 1000 to 1002 Knox, 513 10th, 525 10th, 508 to 510 10th, 512 to 514 10th, and 516 10th. They're all, I think, in a row. Those are the ones that are in a row, right? So same thing. Did you give us the draft for? Because I know that each instance has a specific.
Yeah, because so the process for these would be typically, especially if somebody's purchasing a bunch together, because you want to make sure that if it's bunched together, that it's being used for something.
Yeah, they're all contiguous.
These are all contiguous, yeah. So the process for this one would be to submit a written proposal of what the proposed use for the property is, what you intend to do with it, and then council would integrate that into that development agreement, just to make sure that, everybody's following through, and the whole purpose and underlying premise for conveying that property to the subsequent owner is actually accomplished there for the benefit of the city and its residents.
So if we could get that before the council meeting so we could vote on it.
I've been waiting for this for 2 months.
What's that?
I've been waiting for this agreement for 2 months.
Well, we need the proposal so that the
Yeah.
solicitor can
Oh,
draft
this is
the
the first I'm hearing about it. I'm gonna tell you right now, I'm gonna build greenhouses there. I plan to make that block look like Martha Stewart's backyard. So if y'all got a problem with that, let me know right now.
No, but
Okay, thank you.
we still need it in writing, but if you could
Okay.
just put something in writing so the
Probably glad
solicitor
somebody
can.
tell me something.
Yeah, so I'd like to vote on it next week, so, and get that moving forward.
Yeah, I think it's a brilliant idea.
I'm sure you do.
The code enforcement officer is trying to stop me from putting one on top of my building, from what reason, I don't know. I've
That I
got to
don't
talk to him about that.
Yeah, I don't know, it could have something to do with UCC, I'm not a code officer, so I have no clue.
Honestly, I get a lot of opposition for a lot of things I'm trying to do, for what reason, I have no idea. I'm a legitimate businessman trying to do business in Monessen, I've been investing in Monessen. I would like to be appreciated, honestly. I don't know what's going on.
Nothing, just like I said, if you get us the proposal, we could get this voted on the 13th.
Okay.
And then once we have that, we'll get the solicitor to draft the agreement, and,
These are all city properties.
yeah, they're all city.
Yeah.
This is just the boilerplate that we're looking here? There's
So-
gonna be-
So, yeah, this is a sample of the boilerplate that we've used before.
And so this is the one that we've had people sign whenever they were developing properties before. So it would be very similar, but, you know, obviously there's some that has to be specific. So this one is referring to if there's a blighted structure on the property. If it's a vacant lot, we have to, you know, have it specific to it being a vacant lot that's going to be developed with new structures or whatnot. Yeah.
So I got a question. So if it is a vacant lot, what if somebody just says, well, I just want to buy because I'm tired of looking like 6 or 7 feet of grass? That's, you know, that's an exaggeration, but if somebody buys a lot saying I'd rather cut that grass so the city looks nice, I don't see anything wrong with that instead of having it looking like a blighted yard that's never been cut.
No, they just need to say what they're gonna use it for.
So they
Like if they're gonna use it,
trying to beautify the city by maintaining these lots, that's enough for proposal?
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that, I mean, Lois, yeah, that would be, you could submit that, I don't know you, but anybody could submit that as a proposal. Council would then want to evaluate whether, you know, given the specifics of that lot, whether that's sufficient, because you wouldn't want to, you know, let's say it's a prime piece of real estate that, you know, somebody isn't planning on doing anything with it other than turning it into a side yard or just, you know, some sort of beautification project. Council may be okay with that, or council for wanting to, you know, promote continued development and increase the tax base may want to say, no, we'd prefer that actually something be built on that lot instead of just, you know, it being preserved as green space. So that's why you'd want to look at those and evaluate those on a case-by-case basis.
Depending on where they're located.
Exactly. Like, for example, if somebody wants to buy a lot and they own the next door property and they want to use it as a side yard, a good proposal that they could present is, I want to use it as a side yard and maintain it as a side yard. And, you know, I think that's a good, you know, a good thing for everybody.
or
If it's
parking
just,
area,
But if it's like a sizable lot in a business district that would otherwise be developable, council may want to give that one some more consideration to you know, make sure that it's being put to its highest and best use.
Okay.
But you guys would have the ability to review it once you guys have that proposal in hand.
Yeah. That's why each one of these would be case by case.
Okay, got it.
And then item R, the permit fee listing, which was last updated by resolution in 2019. I have the exhibit, but I don't have a copy with me of the resolution. I'm not sure. Councilman Gregor, did you? I remember you mentioning this. Did you have a copy of the resolution?
I do not with me.
My phone's up there. I can't remember. This is the.
That's his here.
Yeah, but there's a resolution.
There was a resolution.
The resolution
2019.
attached to it is the one that had the city administrator collecting fees.
Yeah, that's not permitted.
Yeah.
The city administrator is not to handle the collection of fees. This auditor that came in told us that that was not appropriate at all. The city administrator, the city clerk, the only people that should be collecting fees are the treasurer's office. And whoever made that resolution was in error. And since it was 2019, I'm assuming it was Councilman Orchakowski and that council at the time. It's not permitted.
Yeah, I have to find the copy of it.
Yeah, we need to go over that. I do have a copy of it. Actually, it was the new auditors brought us to our attention. The old auditors, Cipher and Cipher, I don't know if they overlooked it or just didn't notice it. I wasn't here, so I couldn't tell you. But there, you know, you should not have the city administrator collecting the fees and money. There's no control. There's no paper trail.
Yeah.
There's no chain of custody.
And that has not been happening here
No, it's.
in 2020 onward.
I believe that Jerry corrected that at the first of the year.
Yep.
And I'm not sure why they did it. It doesn't make any sense. Perhaps Councilman Orchakowski could answer that question, why it was changed to having the city clerk administrator collect funds. I don't know.
Not off the top of my head, I can't tell you I can't.
Well, I do know that your name is on there and you did sign the resolution, but we'll provide a copy at the next meeting, so
Yeah,
that you can
somebody,
look at it.
you folks voted on it. I don't know who recommended that, but they were completely in error. That's totally inappropriate. You eliminate the treasurer's office.
Yeah.
Why would you do that? You know, very bad practice, very, very.
And we have an elected treasurer, so,
Yeah.
Can't tell you that you guys weren't there.
yeah, well, you were, Mr. Deputy Mayor.
You were one to sign it, Councilman,
So
and
you should know.
you should know why you did it. I don't understand why you don't know why you did it. Why don't you know why you did it?
Sorry,
Councilman?
I have a great memory. You have thought of everything I did.
Oh, I don't. I don't have a great memory. That's why I write things down. And I maintain files.
Well, when we provide the resolution, maybe you will remember.
That's possible, thank you.
Mhm.
I don't-
But we will need to rectify it, because we have an elected treasurer. The treasurer's office collects money. The city administrator does not. So,
I'm just reviewing it, what are, on top of the second page, node poles, what are node poles?
I'm not sure.
Are those like wireless, like units that a lot of
Oh, maybe.
wireless communications companies are putting on
No
within
polls.
public rights of way?
It's possible.
And
I'm
the
not
only
sure.
reason, my guess is that that's what a reference, that's a reference to.
Mhm.
And my only comment on that is, if that's the case, if node poles, if that's what's being referred to as node poles, the FCC just issued an order, I don't want to say late in September of 2019, I believe at this point, where you can't set the fee for those as just a flat fee that's that high. That there's a maximum that you can set as a flat fee, or do the actual cost to the city of, the review and approval process for that node pole.
When did that go into effect?
That would have been September of 2019.
This was December of 2019, this resolution.
Thank you, Tim.
That's like I said, I've run into this issue in other municipalities, so that's why I was wondering if that's what that was.
I'm glad that you were aware of that, so we could correct the problem. There's another problem that's been going on that was brought to my attention by Nicole Holmes, I believe.
Yeah, that's coming up on the next
That we need to
item.
address.
Mhm. So we'll go into item S, the proposed amendment to the vacant property registry ordinance. That's what that was for, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you want to touch on that. and then-
Basically, they changed things where back when the ordinance was passed, correct me if I'm wrong, because I don't have the perfect memory. Back when they first passed the ordinance, if you lived in Monessen, there was a set fee.
Mhm.
And then also in surrounding areas. And then it was changed. It was changed to, you had to live in Monessen. If you lived in North Bell Vernon, you no longer got the discount, even if you owned a house here in Monessen.
Yeah, but then there was a fee based on nearby communities, neighborhoods.
Yeah, but there's a letter that's been sent out since 2019. It's raised that fee. Those people are no longer eligible for the discount. I think it's like $250 that they have to pay now, whereas before it was like $25. And also too, there's a situation where unoccupied buildings are being charged a fee as if they're vacant.
Mhm.
Now, when we voted on that, to change that, I had thought that a vacant building meant that it was vacant, because it says vacant and abandoned.
Mhm.
Now, there's people that have property in Monessen that are maintaining that property, cutting the grass, making it look nice, but there's nobody living in there right now. And we were charging them a higher fee, and I don't think that's right.
Yeah, I think that it needs to be amended, the vacant property, so there's like two different things. The vacant property, I think one needs to be amended to address, there are a lot of people saying that they're using a property for storage. And there's like, I have to talk to the code officer.
Well, storage, Is storage using it as a residential unit as a commercial unit then?
Yeah.
Is that
exactly.
legal? Can you do that in a residential district?
And do
Can you
you
use it for commercial purposes?
I-
Storage shouldn't,
For the amendment, I think that we should put in there that storage is not a permissible exemption for the vacant property fee. But then if there's a property that, let's say, the owner dies and you're preparing it to be sold or share sale or estate sale, whatever, there should be like a duration of time that you have. Like if you're selling it, like we have to look at the exemptions again based on like what we've gotten in from the registry. But then the thing that you mentioned with the tenant fee, I looked up that, so the tenant fee was established, I think, in 2000. And then it was amended under Patacia, Smith, and Mavrakis. And all of them overlap so much, and I looked at all of them, I typed it all out, and I shared it with the solicitor. A family member is living in someone's property, and that family member that's living there doesn't own it. There's still that fee, but then we have to figure out what is that fee structure. We have to maybe change the name of what we're calling the ordinance so the word tenant isn't in there, just to like make it more clear of what the intention of it is.
yeah, because tenant normally would be paying rent.
Right, that's what you assume, and so people come back and they're like, well, I'm not a landlord, I shouldn't pay the fee. But if someone is living in the property that doesn't own the property.
Then we should clarify the ordinance.
Yes, yeah. So I'm still trying to, I was hoping to have a proposal for you by today, but I'm still trying to figure out the redundancies of the ordinance, so hopefully I will have something to you soon to fix that.
And
Same with the vacant property amendment.
I want to thank Nicole Holmes for bringing that to my attention,
Mm-hmm.
because she did twice. First time I didn't understand what she was trying to tell me. And I looked at the ordinance and I went, okay. What I didn't do was take a look at the letter which had changed after they did a resolution in 2019. They changed it. They removed that exemption for people living in North Belle Vernon, Charleroi, downtown Belle Vernon. They changed that. In Webster, they changed it so those people weren't eligible anymore. But when people go on the website and they read that ordinance, there's no resolution on the website.
Right.
There's nothing that we can reference to. And we need to find that and put that on the website, or we need to do away with that and make it.
I think we should redo the whole ordinance just because it's super confusing, and again, it's like 2000, it was written and then amended like 3 times under, like I said, I think Patacia, Smith, and Mavrakis, so like, I think it would be easier to just come up with a new one based on
Start
all of
fresh.
that, yeah.
Yeah, what,
Then there'd be less confusion.
again, I want to thank Nicole Holmes for bringing that to my attention. So because, if we're charging these people and they go on there and they look and say, what, they're charging me this rate here, and that's not what the ordinance says, and we don't have the backup with a resolution, or it's confusing, then they have a legitimate complaint. We need to get that rectified. And I don't know why it was changed. I wasn't here. I didn't vote on it. But, again, as the mayor said, this goes back not just the last couple of years, it goes back to Anthony Patash, so we need to fix it.
Next, item T, U, and V, we have Recreation Board resignations from Marlon Wheeler, Brandy Smith, and Ed Lee. And item W, we have a resignation from April Kadish from the Library Board, so we'll have to fill those vacancies. And then item X, we've received an application from Joseph Bransma to be appointed to the Young Citizens Board. He must have seen the article in the paper about that because we haven't advertised for it yet.
Can I ask a question? What does the Recreation Board do?
Well, what they should do is provide recreation not only at the Civic Center, but also at all of the parks throughout the city, but that hasn't been happening in the last few years. So hopefully, once we get the board repopulated, they will start doing things again.
Do you have any applicants for this new Recreation Board?
Not yet, no.
We have to advertise for that, correct?
Yeah, we should, and the applicants must be residents of Monessen, and they must get all of their clearances prior to approval by council. And then we also have a request, an application from Joshua Lindsay to be appointed to the Blighted Property Review Board. There's one at-large position left on that board. And then the last thing, I've been in talks since November with the MLB. I learned from Frank Lucresti, a resident, that Monessen used to have a minor league baseball field, Page Park. And it was located, if anyone knows where the Chateau is, where that creepy railroad tunnel is, you used to be able to go through the tunnel. It was on the other side of the tracks between Pages and Pittsburgh Steel. And the park was home to Monessen's minor league baseball team, the Monessen Indians, that was owned by Cleveland. And in the 30s, we hosted Negro League games there. And in 1938, in July of 1938, Josh Gibson, who was in the Hall of Fame, Negro League player for Homestead Grays, hit his second longest home run out of Page Park. The mayor, at the time, Mayor Gold, went out and measured. It was like 538 feet or something. It ricocheted off of a Pages building, almost went into the river. His longest home run was in Yankee Stadium. So I talked to the MLB, and they are going to donate an aluminum cast memorial plaque to be installed along Donner near the site to commemorate Page Park and Josh Gibson. And I have the Gibson Foundation, the Negro League Museum, and the Pirates also involved in it. So it's very exciting.
Are they going to install it, or do we have?
We are going to have to install it, but they're paying for it. So.
Do you have any idea of the size of this thing?
I have a proof. So I'll have to look. I don't remember. I'll give council a copy of the proof next month or next week. I don't remember what the size is, but it's the one by the library with Christian Antonsen.
Yeah.
It's like kind of like that
Kinda
size.
like that?
Yeah. And since it's not a state marker, instead of the state seal on top, it'll have the city seal on top of it, and it'll be in black and white. So double-sided. So that it'll be really nice. Also, I've been wondering about this because I know that we're doing all of these property transfers, and this is a question either for Lois or Mr. Mosher. Redevelopment Authority has been meeting, I assume, like as usual. Yeah. Have you advertised your meetings? Because
Yes, we
okay, could you provide a copy of that? Because I haven't seen it, so we want to make sure that that's working. Also, I noticed from the outside, and correct me if I'm wrong, is your building, do you have a ramp or anything? Because also I learned at the training for Sunshine Act, you have to be ADA compliant to have public meetings. So we need to make sure that that's happening so the public can get in and know when your meetings are and be able to see your deliberations and your documents and minutes and everything. So we want to make sure that that's all working properly, because it's all boards, authorities, and commissions.
Are your meetings scheduled on a yearly basis?
Yes.
So that if you could get us a copy of your schedule, we could post it down here, so if people are interested.
Yeah, because I received
They wanna know when it's gonna
received
be.
questions and I don't have the answers. So, and then trying to miss there was something else we touched on the audit. I did want to say the Treasurer's Office provided me with real estate property collection data that I thought was really useful. Myself included, we all seem to think that for years now the problem, one of the many problems in Monessen has been that people don't pay their taxes. People that live here, they don't pay their taxes. And that's actually, I mean, there are people that don't pay their taxes. Obviously, with the tax delinquent list, there are people that don't pay their taxes. But our tax collection rate is in the 90 percentile range. So the issue with the city and the finances and the tax collection, it's not the actual collection that's the issue. The issue is that we don't have enough people here paying taxes.
It's your declining tax.
Yes, we need more people.
What did you tell me the other day? There was 800 homes?
There are, on the tax delinquent list, there's 817 tax delinquent properties. Some of those properties, people are actually still living in them, and some of them owe us taxes from 20 years ago. The taxes that are, all these properties are in an unsold status. No one has gone after them in decades. And now that council over the last few months, we've been approving these property transfers with the tax forgiveness program. We're never going to see that money. We haven't, there are taxes on that list from 1997. We're never going to see it. So,
Well, who's been responsible for collecting these taxes?
the city and the county are
Well,
really to
who
blame.
goes after delinquent taxes? It's not the city,
No, it should be the county.
it's the county.
But
that
then
goes after
if they go, if a property goes into share sale, and then it goes into judicial sale and unsold status, and if no one bids on it and no one buys it,
It
it just sits there in limbo. And the only thing that the city really can do is promote the vacant properties that are there and try to get people to acquire them. Thus, what's happening now, I'm sure you've all heard, one, there's a housing shortage in this country, which boggles my mind, but there's a housing shortage. And with COVID forcing everyone to work remotely, it's really improving our chances of getting new people to move here, because you don't have to live in the city anymore to work in the city, because you could work remotely. City's expensive. Over the last couple of weeks, I've talked to people who have moved to Monessen from Arizona, who've moved to Monessen from Orlando, Florida, who've moved to Monessen from Savannah, Georgia, and even New Zealand. So the properties that we have, the interest that is coming on this now, that's money that the city's not going to have to spend in the long term to demolish these properties. And by us forgiving these taxes like we've been doing, if a property is worth $5,000 and there's $40,000 in back taxes, it makes absolutely no sense to make someone pay that $40,000.
Well, they're not going to.
No, and
They're
so
not
the
going.
properties are going to sit and they're going to rot, and we're going to have the same problem. Or they're going to spend the money on the back taxes, and then they're not going to have the money to fix it, and then we still have the same problem. So over the last 2 weeks, when the announcement came out on KDKA about what we've been doing, between John, myself, Cheryl, everyone in the office, including the police chief, we've received over 150 inquiries of properties. So now, how many of those people will follow through? I don't know, because it's up to them to get the title and do their thing, and then they'll have to show us and do the developer agreement like everyone else that we discussed earlier. But getting these properties back on the tax rolls, you don't have people storing drugs in them then. You don't have them sitting and rotting away. By forgiving the taxes, you're putting a reset button on the property so that it can get rehabbed and people can move into it, and it's back on the tax rolls. Then you're getting more people here, you're getting more
You're
people
going to
in the
increase your,
schools.
you're going to increase your tax base again.
Right, exactly. And the school board tomorrow will be discussing the land bank, because, you know, we approved last month to enter into the land bank, so now we need them to approve the agreement. And it's the same thing. The land bank can go in and get properties, forced tax sales for properties that, that there are estates.
If you only get 25% of those properties put back on the tax rolls, and you're making, I don't know what an average property tax would be in Monessen off the top of my head.
Maybe like $1,000, $1,500.
Say $1,500. If you only get
For all three.
If you only get 25%, that would be 200 properties back on the tax rolls.
Yep.
You know, $30,000.
And it would be, it falls in line with the comprehensive plan, it falls in line with the county's comprehensive plan, it helps to stabilize neighborhoods, and then in places where we've already torn down houses and we own all of these random empty lots everywhere, we the city, if someone could acquire a house that's vacant and then, you know, go through the tax forgiveness or they're going to rehab it, then we should encourage them to get the lot next door for a yard, then we have less property.
Garage, yeah.
Yeah,
This is only going to accelerate, it's only going to accelerate, especially, and I've said this before, when they get that beltway completed
Yep.
on 43, you're going to be 30 minutes from downtown Pittsburgh. Right now, from what I talked to an engineer, and the engineer told me they're going to end up at the Bloomfield Bridge. That's 30 minutes.
Yep.
You could become a bedroom community. All the Mon Valley will be able to commute down to Pittsburgh in 30 minutes, like Charleroi, Monongahela. Those communities closer, there'll be less time, but Monessen, we would be 30 minutes outside of Pittsburgh.
yeah.
And that would just, if I had the money, I'd be buying a lot of property.
Yeah.
Tim,
Yes, sir.
I got a question.
Yes.
What's the county's position on this?
We send them case by case to the county.
You mean the county's position on the tax forgiveness
Mm-hmm.
thing? So the county, the city only has authority for any sort of city taxes. So, yeah, anybody that's interested in the tax forgiveness opportunity would have to understand that they would not necessarily be getting either the school district and or the county taxes forgiven. That those may still be an issue for them out there. We make sure that's in the standard agreement that the developers agreement that people are provided. But yeah, I mean, we have no authority over any other municipality or the counties or the school districts
They have to
delinquent
approve.
taxes.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, the only thing we could do is forgive the city taxes and the garbage, if there's past garbage things.
The chance of them approving it.
Yeah, I mean, all of the past ones the council has approved so far over the last few months, the city or the county and the school district have approved every single one of them. Because I think that they realize that they're never going to see that money either. In terms of the county,
So these 8 properties that were forgiven,
yeah,
the county
completely, yeah,
and school
yeah,
have forgiven the taxes also?
yeah.
So it seems to me like it's pretty much of a,
I think it's catching on because Monessen has such a huge blight problem, and I mean, the problem is we need to get people to move here. That's been the issue. We have the infrastructure for 20,000 people, and we have 7,600 people here. So by doing this, we're getting people into these properties. The city doesn't have to pay. It's a ton of work for John, and a ton of paperwork, but we're not going to have to pay. Yeah, exactly. And we're not going to have to pay long-term to demolish these properties and deal with the empty lots. And so, like you said, with 43 and all of the other development that's going on, it's going to spark something. And we're equidistant to all 5 county seats, so that helps us too. And the county and the school seem supportive of it. Hopefully that continues. But it is a case-by-case basis
well,
with each property.
you're 8 for 8, so.
Yeah, but I mean, we have to continue promoting this because, I mean, what are we going to do with all these vacant properties?
You can't afford to tear them all down.
No.
And a lot of those structures have some really good bones.
Especially the brick ones.
Oh, my God, yeah.
Mhm.
And keep in mind too, there's developers agreements with the delinquent taxes. It's not that the city's giving away something for free. I mean, that's the whole purpose of having the developers agreement. It's unlikely you're going to collect those taxes, but in exchange for, being given the tax forgiveness of the city taxes and potentially the school district and the county taxes, you have to agree to invest at least 3 times whatever the taxes are into the property to bring it back and to rehabilitate it. So, that makes sure that the city's getting something as well, that, instead of people paying a bunch of money in delinquent taxes, they can put that money into the structure itself. But the city at least has some assurances that that's going to happen before the delinquent taxes even get forgiven. So
What's the timeline? What's the timeline on that investment?
the general in the template agreement is 180 days, so about half a year to put that investment into the property.
And then we do have that ordinance that council adopted last year that you have 12 months from the date that you purchased the property to bring it up to code.
Is there any leeway built into this, as if someone wants to do that, but they can't accomplish it in 180 days? Can they come to us and ask for an extension?
Oh, they would, they would have the ability to ask for an extension, and
I mean,
that's up
because,
to council's discretion, but I would think that if good cause is shown for an extension, council would.
I mean, I just, just looking at some of this remodeling stuff that goes on out there, some of this stuff, you have to wait 3, 4, 5 months before you can get a contractor to come in and do it. It's just, you know.
And what I'm told is, realtors in Monessen are running out of houses to sell. They need to flip properties to sell them, because all of the nice houses that usually sell, they're all selling for above asking price, and they're selling really fast.
Yeah, sometimes within
So,
days.
yeah, so I've had realtors ask me, hey, can I get that vacant property list? Can I flip these properties? How do I do this? Because they have no houses to sell. And so something is happening out there that's causing a buzz. So, and that was even before the buzz with the tax forgiveness thing, that houses were selling like crazy. It's been going on since about December. So I'm just.
You think you're only given them 6 months to get the houses up to where they need to be?
That's
the default in the agreement. You know, the whole goal there is to incentivize people to have a plan together and to have already been in discussions with, you know, current owners to get the property acquired and everything. They need to, I forget the exact wording in the agreement, but, you know, they need to show substantial progress within 180 days. I'm not, I'd have to look at the exact language in the agreement.
Yeah, so obviously, if 180 days passes and they're almost done with it, like, I would think the council wouldn't say, no, we can't extend this. And then again, we have, to fall back on, we also have the ordinance where we give 12 months to bring a property up to code anyway. But if you're going to invest and flip a property, chances are you have someone who's interested in it, or you at least know of a couple potential buyers or renters. And that's what I've been told from people who've inquired for properties so far. So pretty much everyone that's inquired has said that timeline is not an issue. So we want to make sure.
Okay. This question about I have no problem with forgiving taxes. Then you say that when upon done, they have to pay 3 times whatever the cost of that was to put into the house.
Yes.
So for instance, if somebody they were owed 10 years of taxes on a house, and say it was $700 a year. So that's $7,000. So if they have to pay 3 times that, you have to put at least $21,000 into that house?
Yeah, because some of these houses have been vacant for so long. By the time you put in pipes and a roof and appliances, the furnace and what have you, you're already there. So
You're looking at a kitchen?
Yeah.
We're running from anywhere from $15,000 to $25,000 for a kitchen, $10,000 for upgraded bathrooms. Windows. So if they're going to go and do it correctly and bring it up to snuff, they're going to, most of those people, the developers, will meet that goal quite easily.
Yeah, because the assumption is, and I've been telling people that have been going around looking at houses, just assume that every vacant house has no pipes, broken windows, no furnace, no hot water tank, and a bad roof. That's pretty much the case. And maybe no aluminum siding either, because people have scrapped it. So they're going to put it in pretty fast.
So you're going to need some leeway for that, because there are some houses that are in between other houses where people haven't gone in and tore out pipes and haven't busted windows because people are living on both sides. So even though they may have sat for maybe 5 years, they don't have as much damage as those other houses are nowhere near any other house.
Well, that's when.
So you're going to get some leeway there.
Well, that's when they would have to come to us and say, "Hey, we fixed everything already, and it's up to code. We haven't expended that amount." That would be a case by case basis.
Okay, so that's going to be specified that too, that is case by case, because that may be a different situation in that case.
You want it to be as uniform as possible, and the ones that have been presented so far, the 3 times the delinquent city taxes hasn't been an issue. The other thing to keep in mind as well, the reason that it was pegged to 3 times the city taxes is because in all of these instances, at least thus far, the school taxes and the county taxes have also been forgiven. So, you typically want people to put what into the property what they're getting forgiven on the property, which is why that was just a rough approximation of what the total amount of the delinquent taxes might be, multiplying that by 3 of what the city taxes are.
But the county taxes and the school taxes are always higher anyway, so, like, for each property.
Can I say something? Honestly, I think that would be like unfair, because there would have to be some kind of cap on that. Because this house is in Monessen, brand new, they can't sell for $60,000. So now you're gonna tell somebody to come and put in maybe $30,000, $40,000 into a house that they have to renovate, that's not even worth that?
But it will be worth it once they renovate it.
Like I just said, there's brand new houses over here, not worth $60,000 because of the condition that the neighborhood is in.
Houses have been selling much higher lately, and so, yeah, I'm very surprised by it too, but they've been selling higher than usual. So we want to make sure, like Tim said, that if we're forgiving the money, we want them to invest in the properties. We don't want them to go and flip a property and not properly fix it, because then we're still going to have the same problem. So.
And that's the issue. I mean, in other municipalities, you see it where people will acquire properties and they'll make just cursory repairs or just very skin surface level repairs, and it's not actually addressing the fundamental issues. So within just a short matter of time, the property falls back into disrepair, and it's back on the same cycle again that it was before, even only temporarily. I mean, by requiring people to make a significant investment, but also giving them significant benefit by eliminating the delinquent taxes, the whole goal is to make a very real and very substantive dent in that blight issue that oftentimes plagues communities.
And you're essentially getting the house for free. I mean, so it's once you put that money into it, if you sell it or rent to own or whatever you do, like it's going to put it back on the tax rolls, invest. And in neighborhoods that aren't as bad, where there's maybe like one house on a street, I think it's going to be even more successful, because then we could beat the blight back.
Well, I actually look to see developers come in and acquire these properties, and they may come in and get 2 or 3 in a row.
It's possible.
And they'll refurb all the ones that they get. So this, you kind of got to attack the blight from the outside and work your way in and kill it. And it's going to be a multi-decade project.
Oh, yeah.
Can I ask a question? If a developer wanted to come in and do something like that, wouldn't they have to get cooperation from the people who already have their name on the deed?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's
who they got to go see.
Let's say hypothetically, I have a property and you want the property, and I'm not the city. Let's say I'm just a private citizen. You want a property that I have that's tax delinquent and vacant. You would come to me and you would say, okay, I'm interested in this property. Will you sign it over to me? Whatever that agreement is, whether you pay $1 for it or whether they give it to you, whatever the case may be, that's between you and whoever you're getting the property from. You acquire the title, and then you come to the city and you say, okay, I have the title, I have the deed to this property. I would like you to forgive the back taxes on it. Then we'd have that developer agreement that we talked about, where you commit to rehabbing it and bringing it up to code. And then it will come to council for approval, and case-by-case basis for each property. So it's up to whoever is interested in the property to do their own legwork to make sure that they acquire the title. We're not doing that for them. You have to come to us and say, I have the title, here you go. And it would also be up to each person who's getting the property to make sure that there are no additional liens on the property. We can't forgive mortgages. We can't forgive water and sewage. We can only forgive garbage and city tax, and then send it to the county and the school and ask them to do the same thing. So if you're going to get a property, you want to make sure there's no mortgage on it, or there's no like sewer fees or anything on it. So it requires people to actually do the legwork for themselves, and I think that will weed out a lot of people who might not be interested in doing that work.
Is there not another process that this has been relied upon in the past? By December of the year following, the property tax is delinquent. The second year, it goes up for tax sale. The county can do a tax sale.
What's the third? I thought it was third. I think
it's
three.
It's 2 years for the upset sale, and then another year for the
Sure.
clear sale.
Right. So anyway, it goes up for tax sale. And I think it goes twice Is that right?
Well, it goes to the upset sale first, and then it goes to the judicial/free and clear sale
Okay,
second.
the upset sale has to take place twice, as I recall.
Can take place once.
All in all.
The
Okay.
statute only requires it to be
So
done
now,
once.
going from that point to, through judicial is really a lost, is a point that's not any time dependent. It could take days or it could take years, is that right?
Oh, yeah, that's the problem.
That's the problem.
Yep.
But as I understand it, a smart developer can go to the judicial and for typically a $500 fee, escalate that through the process faster, is that correct?
That I don't
I'm
know.
not aware of.
There's, but there's more sales than just, there's an upset, there's a sheriff's sale.
Well, so there, when you're talking about delinquent taxes, there's the upset sale, which is the very first one. That's 2 years after it's tax delinquent. If it makes its way and it's not sold at the upset sale, then there's the judicial sale. It's referred to as the judicial sale under the statute, but that's actually what people refer to as the free and clear sale. That's the same sale, and that typically takes place at a minimum, I think it's at least 90 days or 6 months is the sale. Then it goes on the repository list, and then it's subject to the repository sale, when anybody can bid at any time on those.
Right, and all the taxes are removed at that time.
Anything not federal lien.
But that's too late, that's too late, the roof's coming in then.
Well, exactly, I think the whole problem exists between the tax sale, the upset sale, and how long it takes to go through the judicial process.
That is a problem.
That is where the issue really becomes.
I wanna know one thing, when it hits the repository list, after that, does it accrue more taxes?
No.
No.
Okay.
And the problem has been like, so the unsold status properties that the list is on the website, the oldest tax that I could find on that particular list is 1997. So this has been ongoing. I had to ask the county for the list, because every year, like, they'll show us like the new ones, there's like 5 or however many, typically like a year, there's a handful. It took them 3 weeks to produce the 214-page list of properties that just fell through the cracks. And those are all, they're owned by LLCs, they're owned from people out of state, out of the country, people who are dead, people who don't want to be found. There are some people that just fell off the face of the earth. There are people that are in jail. It's a whole mixed bag. And some people own nice houses in Monessen and have these tax delinquent properties too. So it's a mixed bag of people, and they've never been promoted. No one's ever really like forced the issue to get people to acquire them. And now that there's this housing shortage, which I just learned about, and there's such a demand for housing, it's a really good time to get people to at least look at them. So people have just been driving around, looking at properties, looking at the list, trying to see what's fixable, what they can do. And then if you acquire the property, I mean, it doesn't mean, bringing it up to code doesn't mean fixing it. You could tear it down. That would technically be bringing it up to code. But then the city's not paying for that. So by someone else acquiring these, we're not paying down the road to tear these down. So it's
quite possible, I don't know how feasible it would be, that you could have someone come in, pick these properties up, tear them down and combine the lots.
Yep.
And then build a new property.
There have been a few people who have been interested in empty lots to build houses. So it's a mixed bag, because there are empty lots that are tax delinquent. Most of the empty lots are owned by the city, I believe, or redevelopment authority, but there are a few that are privately owned that are tax delinquent, especially some wooded lots.
So the developer's agreeing with the tax clerk in this approach. This is not going to be an approach that's going to resolve every situation. So for example, if you've got a property that's been on the repository sale list for years, this isn't going to resolve that, because if somebody could have already picked it up just from the repository list without any delinquent taxes. There's something else about that property.
That's fine.
That's fine.
The problem.
They could go ahead and
But
take that, yeah.
this is ideal for other situations where there are properties that aren't in as bad of a condition, that they are still salvageable, which is a good thing environmentally, it's a good thing culturally, architecturally. There's a lot of good things about that to salvage those sorts of structures. But that's what this program is more geared towards.
And then also like, in terms of properties where they are in estates and the owners are dead and there's no next of kin, or the next of kin don't want to be involved, because there are several houses like that in Monessen, that's when something like the land bank can get into those properties and force the tax sales for those. So, anything else?
Mayor, I got one question, please.
Mm-hmm.
Was the city approached to rent the community bank that we got free?
No. Not that I'm aware of.
I was told that the Mon Valley Independent inquired to the city about the possibility of renting it.
No, I'm not aware. John?
What, did they send a letter?
No, they spoke to, I believe, Mr. Harhide.
Nope, nobody did.
Well, that would be nice if they were really interested in it, if they actually sent a
Yeah.
letter so that it could be read at council.
Yeah. Regardless, I still think that moving in there in the long term would be the best bet, and doing something with this property that we're in now.
Yeah, but you know, if someone from MVI did that,
Yeah.
you-
Who was it?
I'm sorry?
Who was it?
I got a call from Mon Valley Independent asking me if,
who from Mon Valley Independent?
Who from Mon Valley?
I'm sorry?
Who?
Mr. Delfonso asked me if the city was staying in the city hall, or was it moving over, because they may be interested.
Well, I guess
And
he
he
asked
called
you,
me.
but he never called here.
So they may formally looking to put a request in, because apparently they're looking for another location.
If that works out, or whether it's this building or that building, that's an option.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else?
I do have something, but considering the time, I will address it at next week's meeting.
Okay.
Basically, I've had some people coming to me and asking me about Act 47. They're somewhat, they don't understand exactly what that means. And they want me to they wanted me to try to explain it. And it will take too much time at this right now. But I will be bringing that up at next, because there's a certain element out there that wants to push us into Act 47, and a lot of the people aren't aware of what could happen as far as to the city providing services. There was a city, I believe it was Clareton, they cut their police force, which was a very negative occurrence for the citizens. And there's also the possibility of real estate taxes going up, the earned income tax going up, the LST tax going up.
Local service tax.
Yeah, I'm sorry, what was that?
Local service tax.
Yeah, the local service tax going up. And the people were asking me, and it's going to take me too long tonight to go into that. So I will be doing that at next month's meeting. Right now, as solvent, we appear to be somewhat solvent. We wouldn't be eligible for that anyways.
Right.
But I will address that at next week's meeting.
Anything else? I will adjourn at 9:20 p.m.